One of my customs bothered me. There was one that had an incorrectly sized boiler, lamps placed in awkward spots, and whose length was just completely wrong. And that custom was... Lady. But we're not talking about her. Yeah, while Murdoch's shape was visually fine, he was just too short and he didn't resemble Murdoch's shape to the best of my ability. So I upgraded him. I started by, of course, giving him a bath. This was done to get rid of as many details as possible and to make him easier to disassemble. I sanded down his motor to make room for the boiler as well as sanded down the tender. The tender and engine were then cut up and the cab was then remade with clay, paper, and balsa wood. The tender was then reconnected and lengthened with balsa wood and covered with paper and cardboard. The coal bunker was then added and paper was used for coal, and afterwards everything was sanded down and given a lining guideline, which I eventually removed. I decided on using a candy tube for the boiler, and then overlapped it with paper and gave him a cardboard firebox, whose gaps were filled in with clay and Lego tiles were used to make his running board. More Lego and cardboard were then used to make the rest of the running board, and poster board was used to cover up the screw on the chassis. The tender chassis was then cut up and rebuilt with balsa wood and then painted up. Unfortunately, the masking tape ripped up some of the paints, but I quickly fixed that. Murdoch was then sanded down, his body was finished sculpting, and then given the rest of his bodywork with paper, cardboard, and clay. He was then given his paint of orange, black, white, and red on his tender and engine, and then given lining and finding details which, I'll be honest, aren't applied to great. He was given a nameplate and a coat of gloss clear on the entire engine, and finally, a face. The last thing given to him were some custom-made side rods and a front wheel taken from a truck, and then he was complete. And that's all for me. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.